This is not a report. I will never claim to make a report, and if I did, I would tell you. This is my pure opinion. But I truly do believe Stephen Ross does not care about Miami Dolphins football. I am Nick Roloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Because if he did care about the product on the football field, Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier would still not be employed. Like, the fact that they still hold their positions after what occurred in week 6 is an embarrassment. Like, to me, Stephen Ross is very close to losing the fan base. I think some fans are like legitimately almost done with being a fan of this organization because it's been nothing but 25 years plus of dysfunction, of heartbreak, and incompetence. And until Ross moves Mike McDaniel out of the head coach position and Chris Grier out of the general manager position, it is going to be more of the same in Miami, which will drive fans away from the team. If he cares about Dolphins football, those two need to go. And when, not if the firings happen, because I truly do they will happen, Ross is just being annoying about it and not doing it now. We will have you covered, so subscribe and turn on your notifications right now. I think he should be fired. Most of you in the chat think he should be fired, whether it's McDaniel or Grier. I'd say 98% of our chat and comments believe that one of the two, if not both, need to go. Well, Adam Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show on Monday afternoon and reported and said that he believes he doesn't see a head coach move happening in the NFL anytime soon, referring to Mike McDaniel, Aaron Glenn, and Brian Callahan. So that made me very upset because I already was planning on making this video about how Ross doesn't care because he didn't fire Grier or McDaniel Monday morning. And then I see this report in the afternoon. Well, Schefter actually was wrong because not only 2 hours after the fact he said that, the Tennessee Titans fired their head coach, Brian Callahan. The Titans have the same record as Miami right now, if you didn't know that, by the way, 1-5. And they have actually been on par, maybe a little bit more of a disaster than Miami, because the Titans have been non-competitive in a lot of their games. The Dolphins have had numerous games this season. Actually, almost every game has been close or competitive throughout, outside of week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. But to me, after seeing the Titans fire Brian Callahan today, it only emphasizes my point further about Stephen Ross not caring about the team. Listen, you can make a lot of statements about how the Titans have been a little bit trigger happy with their decisions to move on from head coaches and GMs. I thought back in 2022 or 2023 when they fired Mike Vrabel, that was a mistake. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's proving it in New England right now. But they fired John Robinson in 2022, then hire Rand Carthen. Keep Vrabel, but then they fire Vrabel. Keep Carthen, hire Callahan. Then they fire Carthen, bring in Mike Borgonzi. And now they fire Brian Callahan. So it's just been a constant cycle of fire GM, fire coach, hire GM, fire coach. It's just been such a weird cycle for the Titans. And I get that the Dolphins don't want to become that. But they also have realized in Tennessee that the people that they had in power were not the people that could lead them to success in the future, and they got rid of them as soon as they felt that belief. Well, there has to be the belief that McDaniel and Grier cannot lead this organization because it's been true each of the last 3 seasons. And for Grier's case, since 2016. So how could they still be here unless you can only explain it that Stephen Ross does not care about the product on the football field? He only cares that the Dolphins have been competitive to a degree and they're making money from a financial standpoint. But if he cared about winning a Super Bowl, McDaniel and Grier would be gone. And that's why I have to come to the conclusion that he simply doesn't care. And Ian Rapoport is just further hammering home my point. Rapoport said, and we saw some of these reports last week as well, that it would take a significant change inside the organization for Ross to fire Mike McDaniel. Yes, we know they extended McDaniel before the 2024 season. And we know Ross and Mike have a really good relationship. And Ross wants it to work with Mike McDaniel. But it's just so obvious. Like, when is Stephen Ross going to wake up? Is he really that naive? Is he really that blind to the fact that your GM and head coach don't have a clue in how to build a winning culture? I mean, we always ask ourselves, almost every single Monday this season, how did the Dolphins lose that game? They find a new way to lose every week. That's a direct indictment on the head coach. And we know how bad Chris Grier is. It's a slap in the face of Dolphins fans every single day. Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier are still employed. And I'm going to say the phrase again. As long as the two are employed, I am going to believe that the owner of the Miami Dolphins does not care about the organization and the product on the field every Sunday. If you agree with me, spam me down in the comments. I can only hope democracy wins out. We live in a country, most of us in the United States, that prides ourselves on freedom of speech and democracy. If we can get enough momentum on YouTube and social media of firing Mike McDaniel, just maybe, Stephen Ross will do it. The team needs a full reset. We said this on our live show on Monday. You have to have stability and competency at head coach, GM, quarterback. You need it. Well, Miami has the complete opposite at all three. And you can't have two of the three, one of the three survive. Like, you can't fire McDaniel and Grier and keep Tua long term. You can't get rid of McDaniel and Tua and keep Grier. You can't get rid of Grier and Tua and keep McDaniel. So it's just a sweep across the board. Get them all out. And then hire a new GM, hire a new head coach, and let those two come together and figure out what the plan is at quarterback for the foreseeable future. Need a full reset. And when you look at the coaching of this team, it just becomes more embarrassing the more you look at it. And there is no evidence needed more than what occurred in the third quarter against the Chargers this past Sunday. The Dolphins led 13-9 at the half. Great first half, considering you missed a 57-yard field goal and you turned it over at midfield on your first possession of the game. And you were able to still overcome giving the Chargers such good field position to lead 13-9. But you come out of the break as flat as I've ever seen. Flat, unprepared to play. You gained negative 11 yards. You were outgained by 166 yards in one quarter of football. You were outscored 14-0. You only controlled the ball for 3 minutes. This is the worst quarter of football that I have ever seen. Seriously. How does it get worse than that? And that is all on Mike. It just is. McDaniel consistently has this team flat and unprepared to play. That is on the coaching. They came out against the Colts in week 1, flat and unprepared. Now, the Colts are a really good football team. We've come to the realization that the preseason projections of the Colts were wrong. We were all wrong. I was wrong. Thought the Colts weren't going to be good. They look like a legit contender in the AFC. But they still, in Miami, came out flat and unprepared for that game. And they've done it consistently, time after time. They are the worst second-half team in the NFL. They were the second worst coming into Week 6, negative 31 point differential. It then became negative 37 throughout the last, 6 games now? Yeah, 6 games. That is the lack of attention to detail, preparation, and you're seeing the adjustments made by opposing coaching staffs to McDaniel in real time, and he's unable to adjust back. What else is there to say? Well, we got more to say coming up here in a second. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid. It's so easy. It's so fun. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks, the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Devon Achane rushing yards, receiving yards, and touchdowns? Well, now you can, all in the same lineup, only on PrizePicks. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. I have an entry in for Monday Night Football. More than Bijan Robinson rush attempts, less than Keon Coleman receiving yards, more than Caleb Williams interceptions, more than Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt touchdowns. We're going for it all with a 4-player entry here. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And I do want to make this clear when I speak on Stephen Ross in this video. I actually do believe he is a good owner for the most part. Why do I believe that? It's not like the Dolphins are ever cash-strapped. We're not the Cincinnati Bengals, for crying out loud. We're not underpaying free agents or not having the willingness to extend some of our best players, quote-unquote best players, because of financial reasons. Like, Ross is willing to pay the money for the product on the field, but he's also willing to make sure the players are happy off of the field by having the most up-to-date and nicest facilities. Whether it is recovery, whether it is to do with the food, whether it is inside the locker room. Like, Ross does all the right things in that regard to make players happy inside the locker room with the facilities they have. Make players want to be a Miami Dolphin. But the problem that he has is his blind loyalty to Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. And I can understand McDaniel more than Chris Grier because since McDaniel was hired in 2022, he took the Dolphins to 2 playoff appearances in back-to-back years. Although not winning a game, he had them with an overall winning record through 3 seasons and to the playoffs twice. What I can't fathom is his loyalty to the GM Chris Grier, who is now in his 10th season as general manager of the Miami Dolphins, where over those 10 seasons, the Dolphins are 76-78, so not even a winning football team. They have only made the playoffs in 3 of 9 seasons. Might as well chalk it up to 3 of 10. He has had 3 different head coaches, Adam Gase, Brian Flores, and then Mike McDaniel. And I went back and charted the 2016, the 2024 drafts, every single one of them. And to me, he went 21 of 62 in terms of successful draft picks. Based off their position, based off their round and where they were drafted. So he has been incapable of hitting on draft selections at a good enough rate. He has survived 2 coach firings and is on his 3rd and has never won a playoff game. Like, I'll go back to the Titans here. They just fired their head coach. It's been 2 years. Like, I get it. You do not want to be trigger happy. You do not want to be known as an owner or an organization that is so impatient to where people would be afraid to take the job. That was the concern in Carolina with owner David Tepper. No one wanted to take that job because he was so trigger happy with firings and moving off of people. And people were concerned about job security. I can understand that. But it's been 10 seasons for Chris Grier. It's been 4 years of Mike McDaniel where it's gone downhill every year. Like, it's gotten worse every year with Mike McDaniel. Like, it's just a ridiculous showcase of complacency to where Ross is just like, you know what? We're making money. Ticket sales are good. Merchandise sales are good. We're in the public media. We're being talked about a ton. People are showing up to games still. we're still being in all of these games. Why would I get rid of these people? Because they can't win at all. And it's just driving me up a wall that everybody knows nothing is going to change. Like, the reaction after the Titans firing from me and others were like, all right, well, Adam Schefter was wrong about no head coach firings happening soon. Is Miami going to actually make a change with McDaniel? And McDaniel, by the way, has been the favorite for first coach to be fired all year long, even before the season. Well, Benjamin Albright said today that he has just been trying to reiterate that it's unlikely McDaniel gets fired in season, and if he does get fired in season, it's likely not going to be early in the year because Stephen Ross doesn't care and he is complacent. Like, the dysfunction is at an all-time high. Like, I really don't understand how Ross can sit back, can see what's going on within the organization, within the coaching staff, and idly sit by. I don't get it. Like, Mike McDaniel, when he spoke to Dolphins media today in his normal day after game press conference, responded to Tua's comments yesterday. And we obviously know what Tua said, calling out the locker room, saying that some players have been showing up late to player-led meetings, whether they're in person or online. Mike McDaniel responded to it yesterday, but did not have the full story because he didn't hear the quote, and he just was right there after the game speaking to the media. Mike McDaniel said now that he's heard him, that's not where a franchise quarterback, it's not the place to say that. Tua knows that now, believes there's no ill intention. You're talking about a misrepresentation of player-orchestrated film sessions. Like, how can you hear what Tua says on a weekly basis, on what Mike McDaniel says? Like, Ross, please try. If you haven't been listening to what the fan base has been saying, or even what we've been saying here, just please, if you happen to come across this, please listen to this. Like, I get it. Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel might be great guys. I'm not doubting that. They just aren't good at their jobs. And there's one thing to be bad at your jobs and everyone likes you and you keep a tight ship, but you just can't get wins. It's another thing to be bad at your job and it's a circus inside that building. And boy, is it a circus. The entire NFL world is laughing at you. Media, coaches, players, other front office members. They're looking at what is happening in Miami and saying, oh my goodness, how in the world has it come to this? You have your quarterback and your captain calling out the locker room publicly. You have Mike McDaniel unaware of what Tua said and then contradicting and going against him today. The world is laughing at you. How can you seriously sit back and idly watch this continue? You need to prove you care. Fire them now. Now, is it going to happen this week? No, they let Mike McDaniel speak to the media on Monday. You don't let your head coach speak to the media on Monday if he is going to be fired before the game on Sunday. The firing, if Miami makes one, would be the morning after a game or during a bye week because you're not going to let the guy speak to the media and then fire him. That would be worse than keeping him around for next season, to be honest. That's an all-time level high of dysfunction. Like, Ross, I think you do a lot of nice things for the Dolphins. Like I mentioned, you spend on the roster, you spend on the facilities and the stadium. But prove that you're not going to stand by and watch this team descend into chaos, because right now it's absolutely falling into the depths of chaos. That'll do it for this episode. Appreciate everybody who hung out with us here and watched this episode. If you want more content, there's more content coming. So subscribe and join the channel today.